Hello, welcome to the self-learning platform by Dr. Sushma Singh. Today in Unit 5 Equality, we are going to start our lecture with topic Relations of Equality with Liberty and Justice. The relation between equality and liberty has been one of the interesting controversies of liberalism. The root of the controversy is are liberty and equality opposed to each other, or are they complementary to each other? In the modern constitutions, we find a frequent association of both liberty and equality in the list of fundamental rights. But they have not always been the same. The English liberal tradition seemed to place more emphasis on liberty, while the French tradition had always sought to secure recognition of the principle of equality. Historically speaking, early negative liberalism preferred liberty to equality. It held preservation of liberty in the sense of absence of restraints as the principal function of the state, and any concession to equality beyond equality before law was deemed as exceeding the proper scope of the functions of state. Positive liberalization as developed in the 20th century takes the opposite view. It considers equality as something good and basic to liberty. It holds both the attainment of liberty and equality as complementary to each other. Let us consider both these arguments in detail. The first one is liberty and equality as opposite to each other. The liberty and equality are opposed to each other has been an important current of early liberalism. Classical liberalism gave so much importance to liberty that equality became a slave of it. It believed that the liberty is natural and so is equality. So, by nature, liberty and equality are opposed to each other. Early liberal thinkers like Locke, Adam Smith, Bentham, James Mill, and Tocqueville felt that there should be minimum restrictions on liberty of the individual. For example, Locke did not include equality in the list of three natural rights. Similarly, men like Lord Acton and Alexis de Tocqueville insisted that equality and liberty were antithetical. They argued that the desire for equality has destroyed the possibility of having liberty. Liberalism during this era was based upon the concept of free market and open competition among the egoistic rational individuals, and it believed that the outcome of economic competition, though unequal, is benevolent and progressive. This legitimization of inequality had a strong emphasis on and commitment to the doctrine of individualism. At the political level, it asserted that there is a necessary contradiction between liberty and equality. Just as liberty is associated with the individual, equality is concerned with the social intervention. Thus, any attempt to remove inequality involves considerable social and political intervention to equalize conditions, and to remove existing privileges. However, this intervention must interfere with the individual and his private exercise of freedom. Early liberals believed that no individual will voluntarily give up wealth and privileges in an unequal society, and as a result, programs of social equalization must interfere with the democratic rights of the individual. Only the individual is fully able to know and express his peculiar needs and interests. It is inappropriate for the state or some other body to interfere in the life and liberty of private citizens. Liberty, choice, and money were closely related in early liberalism. The wealth of the rich also constituted their liberty, and being coerced to part away with their wealth meant a double encroachment on their freedom. In the 20th century, the theory has been supported by the Bagot, May, Stephen, Hayek, Milton, Friedman, Mosca, Perto, etc. They believed that given the financial and social inequalities, a political program to secure social equality of conditions or equality of outcome would require massive social and political regulation by the state, resulting in a totalitarian and authoritarian regime. The pursuit of equality has in practice led to inequality and tyranny. This is not a mere accident, it is the direct result of the conditions which are inherent in the very concept of equality. Egalitarianism relies on the achievement of its objectives, on the coercive power of the state, as they are bound to do by the nature of human material with which they deal. A society in which the choices fundamental to the human existence are determined by coercion is not a free society. It follows irresistibly that egalitarians must choose between liberty and equality. Similarly, according to Hayek, from the fact that the people are very different, it follows that if we treat them equally, the result must be inequality in their actual position, and that the only way to place them in an equal position would be to treat them differently. The equality before law which freedom requires leads to material inequality. The desire of making people more like in their conditions cannot be accepted in a free society and is a justification for further and discriminatory coercion. In other words, the price of significant equality would be politically despotism, which would subordinate individual talent and achievement. In the name of equality, the state unnecessarily increases its power and restrictions the rights and liberties of the people. Radical equality of persons and outcome requires a totalitarian system of regulation. However, even this is no guarantee to equality. In practice, the so-called authoritarian regimes have never achieved total regulations. Since human beings are averse to absolute regimentation, some degrees of inequality of outcome appears inevitable despite all social and political attempts to eradicate such inequalities. Hence, regardless of ideology, the achievement of equality is a problem. The supporters of the elite theory of democracy believe that people are politically unequal and to save democracy and liberty from monocracy. It is essential that only elites should participate in the political process. In other words, to retain political liberty, inequality and not equality is the basis of liberty. In short, liberty and equality are incompatible. Liberalism stands for liberty. Equality is desirable only before law. Political equality should be limited to the right to vote and elections of the elite. Social and economic equality, insofar as it increases the powers of the state, is a threat to liberty. Now let us move to the next point. Equality and liberty are complementary to each other. The early liberal argument that equality and liberty are mutually exclusive assumed an inevitable conflict between personal interest and social requirements. But this dichotomy of individual versus society proved false historically. The demand for economic and social equality raised in the 19th century by the socialist and positive liberals made equality the prime requirement of the liberty. Positive liberals maintained that liberty and equality are complementary to each other, and the state was assigned the task of correcting the social and economic imbalances through legislation and regulation. The supporters of this viewpoint are Rousseau, Maitland, T. H. Green, Hobhouse, Lindsay, R. H. Tawney, Barker, Lasky, and Macpherson's, etc. The positive liberalism saw the individual as a social being whose personal desires could be satisfied in the context of a cooperative social relationship within a social environment. It interpreted liberty as equality of opportunity, which means that opportunity should be given to everyone to realize the implications of his personality. To provide such opportunities, liberate social restraints need to be placed upon individual freedom. As Tawney wrote, the liberty of the weak depends upon the restraint of the strong, and that of the poor upon the restraint of the rich. Every man should have this liberty and no more to do upon others, as he would that they should to do him. Liberty demands that none should be placed at the mercy of others. By securing opportunities for all to be their best selves, liberty makes equal real. Without liberty, equality lapses into dull uniformity. Without the satisfaction of economic needs, liberty cannot be realized. In a society of economic unequals, gross inequalities make liberty the privilege of a few. As Lasky wrote, an interest in liberty begins when men have ceased to be overwhelmed by the problem of sheer existence. It is when they have to chance of leisure, economic sufficiency, and leisure for thought. These are primary conditions of a free man. Equality, which aims to put an end to gross inequalities of wealth and power, is the true basis of liberty. Whenever there is inequality, liberty is thought. To quote Tamne again, a large measure of equality far from the inimical to liberty is essentially to it. A society which permits gross inequality cannot secure political or civil liberty. Where there are rich and poor, educated and uneducated, we find masters and servants. Inequality of wealth results in the division of society between rich and poor, where the rich use their wealth to capture power and use it for their selfish ends. Likewise, if there is a social inequality, people cannot enjoy liberty. For example, the untouchables, scheduled caste, and tribes who are both socially and economically unequal cannot enjoy liberty. Similarly, equality in justice is a primary condition for the attainment of civil freedom. But the inability of the poor to employ skillful lawyers becomes a fatal bar to get justice. Thus, as Pollard writes, there is only one solution of liberty, that it lies in equality. Liberty without equality can degenerate into a license of the few. Positive liberals did not agree with the view that state regulations in the economic and social spheres will lead to authoritarianism. On the other hand, as Hobhouse wrote, the state has been driven by the manifest teachings of experience, that liberty without equality is a name of noble sound and skilled results. Rightly understood, the welfare legislation appears not as an infringement of the two distinct ideals of liberty and equality, but a necessary means of their fulfillment. The social legislation in the field of unemployment, health insurance, old age pension, free education, increase in the general amenities, etc., have gone a long way to reduce the inequalities in society. Rather, the limits of improvement in this direction of greater equalization is yet to be reached. Both equality and liberty are complementary, and one is not complete without the other. Both have a common end, the promotion of individual personality and the spontaneous development of his personality. In this context, both liberty and equality complement and supplement each other. Without liberty, there can be no equality, and without equality, there can be no liberty. Both have to be reconciled. As Dean writes, liberty and equality are not in conflict or even separate, but are different facets of the same ideal. Indeed, since they are identical, there can be no problem of law or to what extent they are or can be related. This is surely the nearest, if not the most satisfactory solution ever devised for a perennial problem of political philosophy. Similarly, Gans writes there is no inherent conflict between liberty and equality. The society we must create should provide enough equality to permit everyone the liberty to control his or her own life, or as much as possible without inflicting undue inequality on others. However, in spite of reconciliation between liberty and equality, even positive liberalism prefers liberty to equality. For example, Barker writes that whatever claims be made in the name of equality, it cannot be viewed in isolation, for the principle stands by the principles of liberty and fraternity. But still, there are reasons for thinking that liberty matters even more than equality. It is greater because it is more closely connected with the supreme value of the personality than the spontaneous development of its capacities. It is greater because the cause of liberty unites men together in something which each and all can possess, while the cause of equality exclusively pressed may make them sink into jealousy of supposed form of individual differences and produce division rather than unity. Equality, if pressed to the point of uniformity, would defeat its own purpose. The subject will become the master and the world is turned topsy turvy. Here we want to wind up today's lecture. Thank you so much for your attention.